Hello everyone, welcome to my series on cloud computing, and today we are going to discuss versioning in S3 in AWS. And if you have not seen the previous video, I would suggest to go through the previous video first, where we discuss S3 basics, how to create a bucket and how to upload objects in S3. But in this series, in this session, we are going to discuss how to version those objects in the S3 bucket. Now, versioning creates multiple instances or copies of any object inside a bucket, and we need to have versioning enabled for that bucket. So by default, when we create a bucket in S3, the versioning is disabled. We need to enable the versioning, and then going forward, any object that we upload in that bucket, a version ID gets tagged to the object. Now there could be two scenarios. One where we enable versioning for a bucket, and after that whatever objects we're uploading, the version ID gets tagged to it. The other scenario could be that object is already present in the bucket and initially the versioning was disabled, and we enable the versioning, and then going forward whatever further changes of that object we are going to upload, the version ID is going to be tagged, but the original object is going to have a version ID of null. Now let's go back to our AWS management console and see this in action. Okay, so we are back to our management console, and this is the bucket that we created in the last video. And when we click on this bucket, we had two folders, folder 1, inside that folder 2, and then we had the JPEG file. Now if you click on the versions over here, you see that there is a version ID attached to that JPEG file, and there is a null reference, there is a null entry also present, which basically means that when initially the JPEG file was uploaded, the versioning was not enabled, and it was enabled afterwards, and then a fresh copy of the same file was uploaded. So the first copy was null, and the second copy had the version ID tagged. Now when you click on the bucket and go to properties, you see that the bucket versioning is enabled over here, right? Now by default this is disabled. Now let's try to understand this by creating a new bucket in S3. So we click on create bucket, and we say my AWS bucket SUMI2, and we keep everything the same, keep the default values, and click on create bucket. Now by default this is not public. We click on this, and here we are going to upload a JPEG file. Now we go back to our folder, and this is the JPEG file that we are going to upload. Now before we upload that, let's just tag this JPEG file properly so we know which version it is, right? So we go for a small text over here, and we put A, and close this, save it. Now we click on upload, add files, and we go to our versioning folder, and we upload the JPEG file. And we click on upload, close this, and this is the file that is uploaded. Now we click on this and go to versions, and we see that there are no versions currently getting tagged because the bucket, my AWS bucket SUMI2 that was newly created, by default has bucket versioning disabled, right? So we're going to change that in a minute. So now let's try to understand what happens if the bucket versioning is disabled. So any change that happens on this particular file is going to be permanent, right? So let's go back to our folder, let's right click on this, and let's open this again in Paint, and we'll just put a text for B over here, close this, and save it. So now let's come back to our original file. This was our original file. Now let's try to access this using the public domain link. Now let's go back to our bucket and go to properties, sorry, cancel this, go to permissions, click on edit, and make this bucket and all the objects public. Type confirm. Okay, it's case sensitive. And confirm. Now let's go to the object, click on the object and go to permissions, click on edit, and everyone public access, make it read, understand the effects, and save changes. Now if I click on this, it gives the original object which is tagged as A, right? Now go back. So as of now we have still not enabled versioning on the bucket. Now let's go back to our bucket and upload the latest file that is tagged as B. Upload the file, close this, click on this, permissions, edit, everyone public access, understand the effect, save changes, click on this link, and it says B. So the original object that was tagged as A, the original image, now it is replaced permanently. So if the versioning is not enabled, the previous copies, the previous instances is not preserved. There is no historical archival of the previous instances of those objects. Now let's try to enable versioning and see what happens. So we click on versioning. Let me just delete this object completely. So we need to type permanently delete. Delete objects, and it is done. Okay, so now we go to properties and we click on edit in bucket versioning and we say enable, and we click on save changes. Now we come to objects and we upload our image again, which is tagged as B at this point, if I remember correctly. Now upload this, and it's successfully uploaded. Click on this and go to versions, and now if you see, there is a version ID tagged to this particular object. Now this object has a version ID because we have enabled versioning for the bucket. Now let's go back to the object, click on the object, go to permissions and click on edit, read, and save changes. Understand the effects, save changes, and click on the link, and we see that this is the object, the one that is tagged with B. That's the image that is currently versioned in that particular bucket. Now let's go back to the same bucket and try to upload a image which is tagged as A. So we modify the same image using paint, and we type A over here and we save it. Go back to our bucket and upload this same file again, which is modified to A. Upload this and close this. Now we go to Untitled and go to versions, and we see that there are two versions which are present, and this is the current version. So now if we go to properties and we click on this object URL, did we give the permission? Click on read for everyone in public, understand the effects, save the changes, and click on this link, and it says A. So even when the latest version of this image is uploaded, and that is the current version, but still we see that the previous version is still retained. There are two copies or two instances of that image. This instance is the previous version. So if you want to verify the previous version, you can easily do that. So we need to go to properties. Let's click on the object, go to versions, and this is the previous version. Click on this, and this is the URL for that, and when you click on that, it says B. So that's the previous version. It was not deleted. Although we tried to replace that with the newer version, the previous version is still the previous version is still retained, right? Now let's try deletion. So this is the untitled.jpg. Our versioning is enabled. Let me just click on this and click on delete. And in this case, let's just type delete over here. So if you remember, last time we tried to delete, it said permanently delete, but now it says delete. Let's just keep that in mind, and let's just close this, and the object is gone. So it might seem like the object is deleted, but actually the object is just masked or it is hidden. Now let's try to upload a new image altogether. So what we'll do is we'll open this with paint one more time. And mark it as C. And save this image. Go back and add files and upload this image. Close this. Click on the untitled.jpg file that is uploaded right now. Go to versions, and here we see that although we deleted the previous versions, instead of actually deleting the file, it just added a delete marker to that particular file that we deleted, right? So it basically means that this file, the previous version that never got deleted, it just added a delete marker which basically hides the earlier versions. So the moment the delete marker is added, the object is no longer visible to the user, and this is the latest object that we uploaded just now. So let me just click on this one and click on this, and of course it says A. That was the object that we tried to delete. So although it is not visible to the user under objects, but still it is retained because the versioning is enabled, and this is our current version. So if we click on this, okay, we need to make it accessible to everyone in public. So go to permissions, click on edit, read, and understand the effects, of course. Save the changes and click on this, and that is the latest object that we have just uploaded. So this is how we implement versioning for a bucket in Amazon S3. Now in this video we discussed versioning in detail, why it is required, how to implement that, and go ahead and enable versioning for your buckets and try to upload multiple instances or multiple versions of the same object and see how it works. If you face any issues, just let me know in the comment section and I'll be happy to help you out. Thank you.